Hello, and welcome to Michell Consulting's webinar series for our Michell University. Today we're going to be going over Infor FACTS, and we're going to be talking about the period close in accounts receivable, also referred to as the month end. This webinar is being recorded. It'll be available on our website, so you can visit us at www.michellgroup.com to view this, plus others in our training series. So, for purpose of today's demo, we're going to be working with FACTS 7.7 for our demo, but the process is the same within the other releases of FACTS. Let's recap a little bit what we know about the end of period or the month end. In FACTS, there are 5 modules that we must close at the end of a month or the end of a period. That is the sales, the inventory, the purchasing, the accounts receivable, the accounts payable, and the general ledger. Today we'll be working with accounts receivable. We have been doing other webinars in detail on the other modules. So for example, if you go into sales order, you can see that you have this end of period here. So we have that for our sales. If we go into purchase order, you can see we also have an end of period, and so on. Inventory control. We have, again, the end of period right here, and so on. So what this does is allows us to basically close, run our month-end report, update historical month-to-date, year-to-date information, and start with the next month. There's no particular order in which it needs to be done, but typically best practices, the operational, which includes the sales, the inventory control, and the purchase order, these tend to be closed immediately, either at the end of the business day on the last day of the month or before business begins on the first day of the new month or new period. This is important because obviously you don't want to stop your operation. You want people to be able to sell, purchase, and affect inventory. The accounts receivable and accounts payable, some people like to keep those open for a couple days. Maybe you want to do a check run, and today's the 1st, and you want to date that check run on the 31st. Or you may want to see what's coming into your cash receipts. You may want to have a couple large payments that may be coming in and are going to come in on the 1st or 2nd, and you want to post those to the last day of the month. Again, personal preference and how you want to do it, and the same with general ledger. But again, to recap, typically the operational, which is the sales, the inventory, and the purchase, should be closed at the end of the period, at the end of the month, before the next month begins. So if the 31st is on a Wednesday, these need to be closed Wednesday night before business begins on Thursday, or early Thursday morning before business begins on Thursday. The payables and receivables should be closed before any postings are done. So for example, if you want to hold these open for a couple days, whatever reason, you should not post your daily sales register. So you would run your daily sales register. Again, assuming that Thursday is the first day of the month, we may want to run our daily sales register on Thursday but not post it. And then on Friday, we may want to run the daily sales register, which will include Thursday and Friday. And at this time, we can then go ahead and, at that time, we can say, okay, we're going to close our receivables and payables, and then we can post those 2 days. And again, obviously, general ledger has to be closed for all these to work. But again, there's no particular order, but they need to be closed. If we do not close all of those, so for example, if I close sales orders, inventory, and purchase, and I don't close the general ledger, next month when I go to close again, it will not let me close again. So you can see that way. So let's take a look at what we mean by the different periods, the current period, and so on. So for example, if we look at sales orders, and you'll notice typically when we're doing an update, so if we go here to the daily sales register, so you can see here that you can see the sales order current period, SOCP, is July 2010, and the general ledger current period is June 2010. For purpose of the demo, I'm working in June of 2010. So you can see that we've already closed the sales orders. Obviously, in one of our previous webinars, we've closed sales. So our sales is closed. So right now, our sales is acting on the current period of July 2010. The GL is still set for June of 2010. Now, another thing within FACTS, you cannot post to the prior periods. You can only do that through general ledger, through journal entries for accounting purposes. You can post in the current period and one period forward. So in this case, at this moment, if I try to enter a sales order and I try to backdate or post that sales orders to June, FACTS will not accept it because, again, the current period is July. I can post into July or I can go forward into August, but I can't go back. So you can see that in this case, you can see it's closed. Now, as we talked about, if I try to close sales orders again, it will not let me because I can't have more than a one-period gap here. So if I was to close sales orders again, that means the current period in sales orders would be August, and the current period in general ledger would be June. So I can't have that. I can only have this gap here. So again, once I would close everything, these would all be current. And you can see that throughout the modules. If we go into purchase order, and we go, let's say, into receiving here, and we look at the receipts register, actually the receipts posting. Let's go here to receiving, the receipts register. You can see again here. So you can see that the PO current period is also June. We can see we've closed AP because we've done a webinar on AP. So we have AP closed. And again, we can see the current period of GL here is June. So let's go through. Let's cancel that. Let's go back. And let's talk about the month end and accounts receivable. So we're going to open up the accounts receivable. We're going to go here to the end of period. In fact, it's called the end of period. I always refer to it as month end. But there's certain things we need to run. So in this case, you'll see here with accounts receivable what needs to be run in the accounts receivable. The first thing is called the service charge register. These are service charges, otherwise known as finance charges. If you want, you can have this set up in your system to apply finance charges. These are late fees. You can actually run a program to actually calculate and set up to run late fees. And here's the service register. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through here, and we're going to run these various reports. Once we run these reports, we would then do the end of period update. So we're going to go into the service charge register. And again, you see some information. The last time the service charge was being run is here. And this information is stored in the infrequent file maintenance. We do have a webinar in detail on that, but I'm just going to kind of show you real quick some of that stuff. So if we look at our infrequent file maintenance and we look at our non-static controls, we can see here that in AR, again, the current period is June. We can see the last time the accounts receivable was updated was at the end of May. We can see the last time we posted recurring and so on. We can see that here. We can also see it in the service charge control. And again, this is where you would set up if you want to use service charge. Again, we'll talk about that in detail in another webinar. But here what we're doing is we're charging, in 30 days, we're charging an annual percentage rate of 18, which is 1.5% per month. And it's in here. And again, you can see the last time it was run and updated was for for May. So when we run this again, it will be June. So let's go in and let's take a look at that. So we're going to go into the end of period. We're going to do our service charge register. And again, you can see we talked about, we can see the last time the service charge was run was 5/31. That's how it's tracking it. You can see our current period is June. Our service charge date, and again, for purpose of the demo, working in June of 2010, so I'm going to say June 30th, 2010. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this in detail. Here you have the option to print negative. What this means here is you want to include any service charges calculating that would be negative. Again, that's not something that's normally done. Typically, we can set up our service charges to ignore credits, but some people like to do that. So again, we can include that in if we want. So we're going to run this. Now, one of the things I'm going to do now, for purpose of here, I'm just going to print to a file, but I want to show you a nice feature called the archive. What the archive does is allows me to actually save this in a file. I'm just going to print the file right now. I'm going to print it to Notepad. Okay, and you can see the information here. So we have these 3 customers. Okay, it's going to actually create a documentation. It's going to create a document for the service. So this person's going to get charged 7 cents. This person's going to get charged 75 cents. And this one's going to get charged, here's the 14, the information here. Okay, I'm going to say no to this right now. I'm not going to run it, again, I'm not going to run the update. So as you know, we need to print everything. One of the nice things that FACTS has is the archiving system. So what I can do is I can run this, and I'll do this throughout the demo so you can see. I'm going to go to my print options. And under here, if I have it set up, I'm going to use the archive. Again, what's nice about using the archive is it will save the information in a file so we can retrieve it later, and we can also view it on the screen. This is important for a lot of the, like the register, you know, like for example, when you do an accounts payable register or a daily sales journal register. If you do not print them, FACTS will not ask you to do the update. So here what we can do is we're going to actually print to the archive, but at the same time we can print if we wanted to, or we can view it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's click OK. And again, you can see the archive. And again, we can set up the libraries. We do have a webinar in detail on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm just going to call this service charge June 2010. I'm going to click OK. And it's going to process the records. And again, here you can say yes to print. And you can see it'll actually post the service charges. So you can see that the archive is complete. We can say yes, and here we have the option now of viewing it. So we've already done it, so we can go ahead and we can view it or print it. So again, if we want our hard copy, we can see it here. And again, you can see in the report viewer, here's the information here. So again, we see it here. So again, this is stored in an archive system. So again, we have everything on file, so we can easily pull all that up. Right? So now if we go back in and we go to the service charge register, and we put in 06/30/2010, let's do this in detail. We're just going to stay with the print to file. Again, you can see it here, because we can print that again if we needed to until we run the end of month. And so on. So we can just do that. The next thing we would do would be if we want to do statements. This is our statement program. And again, we want to run this because once we run the period update, we're going to be removing data. So it depends on how you want to run your statements. Some people like to do the statements before they run month end to get more of a detailed type of statement. This way, what it'll do is it'll show the invoices and the payments, so it'll show the invoice with 0 balances on the statement. Once we run the period end updates in here, we're going to remove those zeroed out invoices from the open docs file and actually put them in the paid file. So if I was to run the end of period and then go in and run the statements afterwards, I'm only going to get the open invoices for the customers. I'm not going to get the ones that were paid. So again, it depends how you want to do it. Mostly when they do run statements, they'd like to run it before they do month end so you can actually see the paid invoices. So let's do the statement print. And again, like a typical FACTS report, you have some options. You can, in this case, we can do it by customer, by alpha, by salesperson, and so on. You can select your range of customers. So since we're doing customers, we're going to get the customers here. If we were to select salespeople, you would see if we search, we're searching salespeople. If we were to choose customer, you can see here that again, we're searching customers. And if you want, by default, we're going to first to last. If we're dealing with multiple branches, we can select our branches. In this case, I'm going to do all branches. We can put the statement date. This would be like the cutoff date. So again, since we're closed in June, we're going to put that there. Again, it's just telling me that this is not a system date. My computer's not set on June 30th. So it's just giving me a warning there. Again, I can continue. I could put discount dates if there's no in the system date. I can have statement codes. I'm going to do all codes because I can create certain statement codes. Maybe some customers I don't need to get statements to. I want to have certain codes. Maybe I have a different type of statement set up for my distributors, my wholesalers, and so on. So I can actually create different statement codes, and those different statement codes will allow me to select which ones I want to print. Balances, you have the option here of doing positive, all balance, or negative and zero. What this means, and typically the default is positive, because I could have a customer that has a credit memo or credit balance. There's one return that's sitting on there, and if I choose positive, I'm not going to get that statement. I may want to do all balances because I just want the customer to get that statement if I want. But again, it depends on how you want to do it. You can include here on the recap. Again, include the statement recap. This is going to tell you how the types of transactions they are. Again, you can look here at an aging. You can enter the minimum days for the documents to print. Again, and you can do it by the ship to sort. So we're just going to follow the defaults. We're going to click OK. And again, here we're just running an aging. And you can see all my different agings here. And again, I would print these. Let's see one that has some, I guess we'll look at this one here. See, we have the negative on account here. We have some amounts and so on. So you can see here, we'll take note of this one here. We'll come back. As a C100, you can see that the balance is zero. Again, this is the detail, because on 427, you have an invoice for $1187.50, and you have a payment on June 15th for $1187.50. You can see the type payment here. So you can see the balance is zero. So those first two invoices were paid. They have balance of zero, and then we have an open here, an open invoice for $2,014.85, and then an on-account credit for that amount. Here's our sales tax register. Again, if we're dealing with sales tax, we need to print this. Again, we can set up sales tax codes within the FACTS software. And typically what we do is we have a state code, a county code, and a local code if you want. So what you can do, in this case for the state of Florida, we have a state code for 6% for Florida, and then we have a 1% for Dade County. So you can do the state, the city, and the county. So for example, in like New York, you would have the tax for the state of New York, for the city of New York, and the area. So you have all three. So again, we're just going to run all these. I'm going to choose here all branches, and I'm going to do a summary versus detail. Let's do summary first. You can take a look at it. And again, you can see here what we talked about. So for example, see here we have California, and then you have the county and the city. Okay, Georgia is just Georgia's tax. There's no county, no local tax, and so on. You can do that in summary like that, which is just going to give you this information. We don't see the detail. A lot of people like the detail. And again, if you're using the archiving system, let's just say no to update so we can go back in here. Again, once we update, we're going through the process of closing this out. So we're going to go here and we can run this. We're going to click OK into detail. And again, now what you do is you see the individual documents. So you see the merchandise amount, the taxable amount, the total tax, and then the breakdown. This is part of the setup of the tax. So in this case, the total tax is $7.76. $3.45 goes to the state. $2.59 is for the county, and 172 is for the local. Again, this is our sales tax credit. We use this to pay our taxes and to report our sales taxes. We're just going to go here and we're going to say yes to update. Okay. Now we have some things to remove here. Now these here allows us to remove information. The first one's called the Registry, the Register History Report. Okay, and this program allows the user to print a report of all the registers that affected the accounts receivable balance. This provides a trace of what transpired to obtain the current balance. So basically the sales journals and the cash receipts and so on. The optional update here will remove the records just printed through the current period without affecting any balances. They just get removed. And again, this is another nice reason for having the archive. We can set this up. Registers that appear on this report, like I said, will include the daily sales register, any job costing invoice register. If you're dealing with rentals, it'll have rentals. It'll have the invoice registers, the AR sales, the cash receipts and adjustments, the return checks registers, and again, those service charge registers that we ran earlier. Okay, it's suggested that the report be printed as part of the month-end procedure, and obviously to be removed to prevent overflow of the data on a regular basis. So again, we can do this. We're going to go ahead and remove this for purposes. Again, we're going to print it to a file, but we could go into our print options. And again, if we have the archiving, which is a nice feature to have, we can archive everything. We don't have to print it and worry about if we can't find it later on. So let's click OK. So again, what you're looking at is what they call the trace registers here. These are all the registers that are in the system. These registers will still be available in the inquiry screens and stuff, but we're just kind of clearing out the information here. The registered numbers will still keep. But like, for example, here you can see this first one here on 531. That's the service register we ran last month. You can see 531. Last month there was $29 worth of service charges. And then you can see here the date. So this is all June. So you can see the June information and so on. And again, we have all the different information in here. We're just going to go ahead. It says check, okay, check the register, ready to remove records. Okay, so if we say yes, you can see 58 records were removed. If we go back in, you can see there's nothing to print. We removed all the information. So again, that's good to do to keep clean. Again, that kind of stuff is recommended to obviously save the copy or send it to archive. The document removal registry, you can also do this one. And you can see here, this is good. We see cash receipts that are not posted. Some documents might be removed. That's going to important. That means we have a cash receipt this month that we didn't post. It's going to warn us here, but when we actually go to do the end of period, it's going to stop us until we post that. So we'll come back and we'll post that. And what this program does, this is the one that takes out the zero balance documents. This is what I was talking about with the statement. Remember that statement we saw, which we're going to come to again? When I ran that statement, the first two invoices there had a zero balance. That means they were paid, but they were still on the statement. They're also still in the inquiry screens in what's known as the open documents fund. They're in the open documents with zero balance. What this program is going to do, this program is going to take those zero balances in the open document file, remove them, and put them into the paid file. Okay? And if you watch on our webinars on the inquiries, we can see that, how that works. So once I run this program and I go back to the statements, you're not going to see those on the statement. So again, we're going to do this for all branches. We can also print any disputed invoices because we can have invoices that are on service hold in the system. We're just going to go ahead and click OK here. And you can see the two right here that we talked about on the statement. So you can see on this statement, we had these two invoices. We'll come back to this. So right now, they're going to be removed. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, update. Okay, and those are removed. If I go back and run it again, you can see there's nothing to print. And just real quick, let's go back to this. Since we did that, let's go back to the statement print. Okay, and you can see here that those are gone. You can see the C100. You can see now we have all the information here that these two, when we run the month end, these are the two we saw. So these two will be gone when we actually go ahead and run the month end. Okay, we have to do the end of period to finish all that. So that was the document removal. The next one would be what's known as the customer ledger card removal. This can be done too. Again, it's the same principle. There is the option to run ledger cards in the fax program. And again, you can run this when they're getting too big. This program allows the user of the fax system to remove the ledger card transactions from the actual ledger card file. Okay. It's good to print the ledger cards before running this program. Okay, the program can be run by customer or by salesperson or territory and so on. So we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to leave this. We're not going to actually do this one now. Let's just go out of here. I want to keep that in my demo because I need that in my inquiry screens for my ledger cards. Okay, so now with the final one, we're going to do our end of period update. So to recap, what we did was we went into the end of period here, and in the end of period, we just went through the process. We ran our service register. This is for service charges, or some people call them finance charges or late fees. We ran that. We did our statement print, so we put in all the statements to our customers to send out to them. We're dealing with sales tax here, so we ran our sales tax register and updated that. We can use this now to go online and pay our sales tax. We did the register history report, so we went in to remove that data. Then we went into the document removal. The document removal takes all the invoices with a zero balance from the open document file to the paid document file. And again, we can do our customer ledger card removal. So now we're ready to run the update. So we're going to go here. And again, now I'm getting that warning again, but I can't post. Okay, before in the removal it showed up. So now it's telling me, well, you can't really close the month because there's a cash receipt you didn't post. So let's go here to cash and credit application. Let's go to our cash entry and see what we've got. So if we search our batches, you can see we do have a batch here. You can see it's all distributed. So I guess we forgot somebody entered that. And again, you can see the current period. So let's just go ahead and post that. And again, you can see the AR current period. Let's go ahead and we've got to put a date. So let's put in 06/10/10. Again, it's not a system date, but it's just allowing us to go in. So we're going to click OK. And again, you can see the batch right here. Say yes to distribution. This is our cash receipt batch we forgot to post. Okay, here's our deposit register. And let's just update this. Okay. And we just posted our cash receipt. Let's go back to end of period. Let's go to end of period. Okay. We have our sales registers that are not run. So let's do the AR sales registers. So let's go to here. And again, the good thing about fax, what it's telling me is that this is information that I should have all posted when doing my daily work. So let's go back here. See what's in here. Let's just do all branches. I forgot to put my date. And again, you notice what's happening here is I have to be within the current period or one period forward. Let's just make sure we have nothing in there recurring. And again, see, it's telling me here that it must be the current or next because my computer's set on this date. If you want me to enter that date, let's just go. Thanks for telling us our sales register is not run, what it is. So let's see what's causing that little issue there. So if we go here to our always nice when you work with demo data when you have these little things coming through, but let's go here. So we're just going to go here and just check something again. Check our service registers. So let's see, we ran our sales register, but it seems to be having a problem with it. Not. Let's make sure everything's printed. You could have something that's not printed that's not posting, so let's just double check that. Yeah, here we go. Let's make sure this is okay. This could be the problem because we had those that weren't printed. Remember, in FACTS, you need to print before we update. So that should be our little problem here. Let's update those. Now, we've printed everything, and now we should be able to go in. And here we go. See, the issue remember, in FACTS, we must take care we print. So in this case, there is an invoice processing system in the AR to do kind of invoice entry, not related to items. But again, you need to print those. So if we don't print them, we can't post. So what I did is I went here to the print, invoice print, and I have the option of printing or reprinting. So I selected everything that was not printed, Once I did that, you saw them then show up on the sales register. So now we're okay. So here we go, back to end of period updating. Again, when you're using demo data, you're not working like a regular operation, so we're just doing some stuff. So here we have the closeout, and again, we're looking at here, this program will close the current AR period. Current period payments and history and all that stuff will roll to the prior period. So everything in June now is going to become a prior period. Okay, you're going to see this is going to change to July. So we're going to say yes here. And again, it's just reminding us, have we done all this? Yes, we've done it. Okay, and one more time. There we go. So we can see the end of period is done. Let's take a look now. If we go into, for example, our file maintenance and our infrequent file maintenance and our non-static controls, we will see now that the current period is now July. Okay, and the end of period here was done, excuse me, on all the dates. So if we go back here, we look at our statements. Again, you can see here the information. That first one was removed, and these two are here. So that concludes our webinar today. Just to recap what we went over, we went into the end of period process in the accounts receivable module. To just let you know, FACTS, the end of period, is performed in 5 modules. So we have the sales, inventory, purchasing, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and general ledger. Again, as we discussed, there's no particular order of how these need to be done, but what you need to do is make sure you close them all. So typically these first 3, the sales, inventory, and purchasing, tend to be the operation. The general rule, those are closed the last day of the month. They're usually closed before the business starts for the next month. The receivables and payables can stay open a couple days if you wish. It's not recommended, but some people like to hold them for a couple days. They're waiting for, maybe they're going to cut checks tomorrow, or they're waiting for a couple payments. If you decide to hold those 2 open, you should not do your daily postings here. So all the purchasing you're receiving and all the daily sales registers, you need to enter those, but actually not post them. You want to keep those clean because they're in the prior month. And then we run these in the general ledger. And we can see if we go to receivables, every module has the end of period. And what we did is we just went down the list. What this will do, this will update the current period and take care of all the month-to-date, year-to-date figures. Okay, so that concludes our webinar today. I'd like to thank you for your time. Once again, this webinar is being recorded. It'll be available on our website. You can visit us at www.michellgroup.com to view this, plus our others in our training series. And we thank you for your time.